They got to go through hood training. Boyhood, you got to know what it means to become into manhood. And then manhood comes up to husbandhood. Husbandhood, fatherhood. But if nobody's there to show, teach, or give an example, then he's lost. He does what he sees on television or the streets. Same with the young ladies. Young ladies got to know how to respect themselves, their bodies, the way they project themselves, where they speak and hold themselves and articulate, right? And they see that in their mother.
Hello, and welcome to another amazing episode of TMC, where we are here to help you take your relationship
from surviving to thriving. If this is your first time joining us, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any amazing episodes.
Today on TMC, we have Eric and Sakeisha Hylick with Marriage Can Win.
Beautiful wife of 24 years married and been together 28 years. We're both licensed financial advisors. We're multi-award winning producers and talk show hosts, authors of 5 books, podcasts, and 2 radio shows. And we are just happy to help marriages to thrive and for them to build successful businesses and create and maintain generational wealth.
I love it.
Love it. Awesome. So tell us about your family, children, grandchildren, any of that?
Oh, yeah. We have a daughter. She's 20. We have a son that's 18 and 2 adult children of 36 and 31 and 3 grandchildren, 14, 12, and
12.
And 12.
You said children 36?
Mm-hmm. I started young in high school. Young and dumb, and we'll leave it at that.
I'm like, man, I said, man, you guys look young.
Yeah, we got that secret sauce. we found the fountain of youth that Ponce de Leon was looking for.
Oh, that's awesome. So how did you all meet?
We met at Florida A&M University in Tallahassee. And I have to say that when we met, it was nothing but God. We met in the parking lot at Gaither Gymnasium. I was coming from chemistry class and you were coming from the library, right?
Yeah.
And he passed by, and his version is that he saw a girl, these nice black jeans and the AKA shirt on. So he decided to shoot his shot.
HBCU, it was a big butt and a pretty smile. And I had to stop and back up.
Oh God. Do you notice every time I hear that question, I go, oh my gosh, here we go.
I know about that. You're saying that, but I see you have black jeans on today. So yeah. All right, that's a marriage lesson right there. What you do to get them is what you do to keep them.
Right?
Absolutely. And he backed up his car, and believe it, I was getting ready to blow him off. I heard that morning, be nice to everyone you meet.
Oh, wow.
That day. So, which I thought, like, be nice to everybody. But God knew my heart and where I was in that season. And then when he backed his car up and started talking to me and asked for my number, I was getting ready to blow him off. And I heard it again. Be nice to everyone you meet today. Right. So then I gave him my phone number. We played phone tag for a little bit. And our first date was Valentine's Day in '94. And we've been rocking and rolling ever since.
That's amazing.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So talking about how you two met, let's talk a little bit about this. Tell us something, share with the TMC listeners something you wish you knew before you got married.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. There's like a laundry list. I mean, because marriage is on the job work, it's on the job training, constantly retrain your mind, constantly. I say checking in, because who you are at the beginning of your relationship, as you grow and you mature, you're not the same person. So I wish I would have been equipped with the mindset to recognize that there is going to be change. You're not going to always be the same person. And you got to keep having these conversations, because hopefully your partner is growing and maturing as well. So their mindset's going to change. So always, a lot of times we think things are great, but just make sure I knew or had a more mature mindset when it came to dating and relationships and my expectations?
Definitely communicating about each other, expressing what we expect, talking about finances, talking about intimacy. Learning is something that we should always constantly be doing until, we go to heaven.
Yeah.
But that was learning about finances. We didn't know too much about finances. Yeah. We know now because now we're licensed financial. We help other couples to build and create generational wealth.
Amazing.
Like now we know about the $1 million baby. The best investment you can do in a child is financially. Right now, if we had known beforehand, we started later for our kids, but you can start with your children. By the time they become 16, you'll have monies in products that you can pull out, pay for their college tax-free. And then by the time they graduate, you can pull out money and tax-free, pay for them a home or a car. And by the time they want to retire, they can retire at maybe $140,000, $150,000 a year, tax-free. And if something happens to them in the 80s, 90s, 100s, then their family is now left with $3 million plus. And that's how that generational wealth continues.
Just making wise choices financially and having those conversations. Sometimes we avoid those uncomfortable conversations because you don't want to offend them. You don't want something that's going to make you, help you step out of your comfort zone. They have to talk about things that, a lot of people want to sweep under the rug, how much debt you're bringing into the relationship, your true financial picture. Because sometimes we try to clean it up for the wedding, but then you start getting this mail that you can no longer hide because you're at the same address. And it opens up a whole Pandora's box, so to speak, in regards to what your true financial picture is. And of course, marriage is going to be more than just finances, but you've got to be able to communicate about that and make sure you're on the same page in regards to where you want to go in the future. Because if not, as you're growing, those types of conversations, if you don't have them, they can tear at the fibers of your relationships because you're going one direction, they're going another direction, but you still have all of these financial responsibilities, not only for you, but if you have children, you still need to provide for them. For us, we came in with just two totally different perspectives on finances, and it took life happening, experiencing unexpected job loss, having to file, which resulted in us, having to file bankruptcy, dealing with repossession for us to say, look, we can't live like this anymore. And it's not just us. We had two little ones in the house. It was like, we got to do something different. We can't keep living like this. So we had to start doing the research and equipping ourselves, arming ourselves with information so we wouldn't keep going through that. By the third time we had unexpected layoff, we're like, oh, this is autopilot. We know how to trim the fat here. Okay, we're going to live off this check, but it's a process. I'm not going to tell anybody it's easy because it's not. It's going to require you to make some changes, some sacrifices to delay that immediate gratification, but think about the long-term goal. What's your long-term goal? And literally, we were able to see ourselves transitioning, being able to save up to be able to purchase a home. And we're like, something we thought after bankruptcy, you're like, oh my gosh, life is over. But in all honesty, it just took us rolling up our sleeves and doing the hard work, making the cuts where necessary. And that hurts. Being a woman, you're like, what do you mean I can't get my hair done? What do you mean I can't do my nails? Okay, do you want your nails and your hair done now, or do you want a house by the end of this year? We had to be honest about what was important, what was a primary, and lining up accordingly.
I think it was one thing that, if we just stayed in corporate America, but I had to dibble dabble into entrepreneurship. And I had an IT business at one point, and then we also bought a UPS store. So I was doing both, the UPS store and the IT business. And that's what really messed us up, because I had the wrong partners in our IT business. And so, juggling that and not, really having a exit plan. So those are the things that I looking backwards with knowing, okay, here's the exit plan. And also be very careful if you're going into business with some people to make sure you do due diligence, background checks and such.
Absolutely. And you guys talk, I mean, I'm glad we went here because we know that finances is oftentimes a big struggle for married couples, and it causes all kinds of harm to the relationship, to the family, and causes disruptions. And with that in mind, thinking about couples, what are some of the practical steps that you could share if a couple was to come to you today and say like, hey, we know we are recognizing that we're in debt above our heads and we don't know what to do, how to get started, what to start, what would be some of the things that you tell them that worked for you guys to start the ball rolling to have better finances?
That's good.
I mean, I would honestly tell them we're going to have to go back to the beginning. There's going to be a level of transparency. You need to know all of the debt that you have, and don't be afraid of the B word, budget, because so many times we're living beyond our means, you know, so you wind up robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you make these expenses for things. It's like to impress other people. They get a bigger house, you want a bigger house. They get a new car, you want a new car. Do I really need that? And is that going to really benefit me or my family in the long run? We see where you are now, where is it you want to go? And then develop a step-by-step plan from there to start eliminating some of the debt. Because when you look at if you look at your bank account for 30 days, you know, and you look, sometimes every time that extra Starbucks cup of coffee, you know, a lot of the things that we're spending money on, if you reallocate those funds, that can help you pay off some of your debt a lot faster. I can, you know, as good as Starbucks is, I can do without if I'm not going to have somebody ringing my phone every day saying this bill is past due. Absolutely. Of course, I'm dating myself now, but you know, it's serious. But if you look at your accounts, you're like, some of these things we're just charging our card and don't even think about it. You know, when Dave Ramsey was talking about the envelopes and the cash system, I'll hold on to $100 bill like there's no tomorrow. So if I have to go in the store and I got to break that $100 bill, no, I don't need it. That's okay.
Yeah, once you pretty much get your paper, write down your expenses and your income. If your expenses are higher than your income, you got to go on that budget. But the thing is, after you save that money, you need to reallocate. When she said reallocate that money into something that's going to be invested and grow. And so now, that's why I was saying now, what we know now, there's risky investments and there's non-risky investments. And so, you know, and they always say diversify, but you need to look at those types of things of investing into the right kinds of investments that are going to grow for long term. And then also, of course, short-term investments. And everybody's like doing well with, you know, cryptocurrency and, you know, stocks and mutual funds and those types of things. But, you know, really just, you know, doing the research and investments and sticking to it, really.
And I like that. So you kind of touched on, you know, individual or a couple that's married that's already in debt. I want you to back up to that, maybe considering getting married, haven't made that decision yet, but they considering being married. When they're beginning to talk about finance, the future of their life, where should they begin? Or what would you recommend?
Before you get married, it's that level of transparency and vulnerability. If you have student loan debt, if you have credit card debt, when we were dating, I had accumulated quite a bit of credit card debt. And it wasn't that I wasn't able to pay it. I just simply chose not to. I'll be honest, that was a part of my upbringing. You know, it's like, okay, I'll pay it when I get to it. But when we're thinking about getting married, now that's going to impact him, especially when you want to go buy a house. They're going to want to look at my credit. Well, you're not handling your finances right. So that will impact him. So we had to start having those conversations and then have a plan for how are we going to handle this? Because we can't go into this situation bringing a bunch of debt. Let's take care of this now. This is, you know, a couple $1,000s. What can we do to knock that out? Because you're going to spend X amount of thousands of dollars on the wedding and you're bringing all this credit card debt. Let's knock some of this stuff out. And then whatever else you save, then you apply it to the wedding. Do I need a $50,000 wedding? No, we're honest. We went and we eloped in college, to be honest, because we were living together. We knew that was not God's best for us. Right. So we went to the Bahamas. I took my mom, he took his mom. We didn't even tell our dads. And later we had an official wedding once he had already graduated from college. Then right after I graduated, because my father was like, once you get married, you're his responsibility. Absolutely. So then we planned and we had a wedding 3 years later, even though, we had already been married 3 years. I'm not telling everybody that that's what they need to do. Right. But what I'm saying is that we had to realize, one, we had to do right with what, God's way. And then when it came to our finances, when we're going to get married, we got to be able to take care of ourselves. We need to be able to step away from mom and dad. What's our plan for that? Part
of the conversation is not always relying on corporate America. Have multiple streams of income, multiple streams of investment. So, and that's why I was telling you, you start with your children, start now with yourself. You start putting it away now. Everybody is familiar with 401ks and IRAs and Roths. Those are good, but there's something else. And those you have to pay taxes on. Especially your 401k. A person with a 401k with $100,000 and a person who has an index product, right? When it's time to pull that money out, you got to pay Uncle Sam. So their 100,000 is only 60. Over here, that's still 100,000. So it's things like that you really don't understand or know that if you knew ahead, talked about it, put a plan for those things. If you want to continue like what we did, every 2 years we were buying cars. Flipping them, and then upside down. If you want to live that lifestyle, then you need to have a separate income that will only pay for cars. And it doesn't affect your mortgage, your household core bills. If you want to live that lifestyle, you can do it, but have some other form of income. Multiple streams of income.
Wow, this is good. This is
absolutely. And I mean, we jumped in, and I think it is good to, because you guys have already given us so much helpful information for the TMC listeners. And I think a lot of times we don't think about finances, especially in the contents of marriage and what that looks like. Absolutely. Sakeisha, you said something about vulnerability and transparency when you're dating and you know that you're coming into a relationship. You talked about being open and vulnerable about what you're bringing in. You also mentioned something, we didn't define it, but you talked about habits, and you talked about those habits coming from your upbringing of how you spent money, how you took care of bills and all of that. And it's definitely important to think about beyond you and your next generation, your kids, your grandkids, and what are we going to leave for them, or what kind of foundation are we setting for them as far as how they handle their finances. So it's definitely important for a couple to have this information to be abreast of their finances in their relationship.
You're coming together. The two of you need to be coming together as one. But if he's on the other side of this wall, how are the two of us really going to become one? Because there's that division. There's already enough going on in the world trying to divide the marital relationship, the stresses of work, job, kids. But then if there's trust, be it with, not being honest about finances or whatever the case may be, that's going to further divide the marriage. And that's not going to put the two of you in a really good place.
Well, it really starts when you at the dating stage, because personifying this character, women and men do it. Men want to personify that he's a big baller, shot caller. He, if he's driving his fancy car, but he can't pay his bills, or he's still living with mom, or maybe he's renting, but he has his 6-figure car and he's jewelry and looking all, and she think, oh, he's a baller. This is what I want. Right. And then so that's lying right there. And then here she, and then we men, right? We see her, and we see her with all the the makeup on and all the extras and extra this and that and that. And then all of a sudden you get married, and honey, what happened to the girl? It's kind of like the movie, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, right? Did you see, have you seen I'm Gonna Get You Sucker? She took off everything. She's like, wait a minute, what happened? She didn't even have a leg. She was hopping with legs. So it's like being honest, not saying what you think they want to hear. not putting on the front what you think they want to see. And then you find out this person is a total different person. And then you spend all this time with them, and then all of a sudden a season change, you see the real person. Like, who is this?
That's why it's important to get to know your partner before you rush into marriage.
Yes.
Get to see them through various seasons. How do they respond to challenges? How do they respond to disappointment? How do they handle anger? How do they handle their finances? Some people are rushing into marriage. Oh, my friends are getting married. I need to get married. And this is the guy that's showing me attention. That doesn't mean that that's the person for you. You've got to really take time and get to know them and be willing to put in the work. And some people don't. They just, want to keep up with the crowd. They're in a relationship, so you want to be in a relationship. It's better to take your time and get connected with the right person than rush. And then all of this stuff comes out. Sometimes they were using these relationships as a manner in which they haven't even healed from the previous relationship. They don't want to be alone. So they just jump into another relationship. You haven't healed. You're bringing that baggage from the past into the next relationship and wondering why you're still having the same issue. You have to learn and grow from it before you jump into something else.
Now, there's a realistic expectation, and then there's just the real thing. And I'll ask, okay, let me break it down. Chicken or the egg, right? Is it family or relationship? So we did a couple of shows. The most important aspect of America is the family structure. If you don't have a strong family structure, if you don't have that mother and father that can teach and by example and also verbally teach their children of what it means to respect himself, how to respect himself as a young man, and how to respect a woman, and the woman to respect herself, and then respect a man. If that's not taught, and if it's not exemplified in mother and the father, they have no kind of foundation on having what it means to have a successful marriage or to even have a successful family, because you don't see it. Nobody's telling them anything about it. So that means talking about sex, right? Talking about respect, talking about who they are. So a man has to talk to that young boy. What I call it is the hood training. They got to go through hood training. Boyhood, you got to know what it means to become into manhood, right?
Yeah.
And then manhood comes up to husbandhood. Husbandhood, fatherhood. But if nobody's there to show, teach, or give an example, then he's lost. He does what he sees from his friends and what he sees on television or the streets. Same with the young ladies. Young ladies got to know how to respect themselves. They got to know how to respect themselves, their bodies, the way they project themselves, where they speak and hold themselves and articulate, right? And they see that in their mother. Right. And then they know what it means to become a woman, when they can take care of themselves, they can think and have a great self-esteem. So they're not relying on somebody else for their self-esteem. Right. And then they know how to respect a man, and they can look at their fathers and say, OK, that's what a man looks like. He takes care of his family. He takes care of himself. And I always see him hugging and kissing mommy, and he's always taking care of things. Everybody's able to go to him because he's the father. He's the head of the household. He's the rock. That's what she's going to expect in a man, right? And then also she's going to look at her mom, and she say how mom is so caring and nurturing. And also the father is also doing the same thing. And that young boy, when he sees his father treating his mom with respect, never calling her out of his name, taking care of the family, finances, and also protecting, and they get that family sense. And when they go on vacations, or when he's teaching them about sex and what it means to have sex, and when it's appropriate to have sex. Little boys, when we were growing up, every time we went to the store, we wanted a toy, and we got it. But every time we go to another store, we wanted another toy, right? So if we still got that boy mentality as young men, we see a girl, she looks good, I want that girl. Oh, and then you go and see another one. Oh, I want her. And even now kind of get thrown to the side, that boy mentality. So that you got to be able to grow in the hood stages. And I think if there was more strong foundations, right? And it's a common saying, if you got a strong family, right? You've heard it. You got a strong community, right? Strong community, you got a strong city. Strong city, strong state. Strong state, strong nation. Strong world. And then if you're teaching these things, respect, right? Then it won't be so much hatred. It won't be so much crime. Because if you can respect your mother and your father, and then when you go into your community, you know that those are adults. those kids are going to respect them as adults. And the adults are going to, now they can get along because they're going to respect each other. And so it starts there. That's why I say, is it the chicken or the egg? I guess you got to have the chicken first, which is the family, before you produce the egg. Because now you got to be able to make that egg come up to be the chicken. I just feel like that's where it starts.
I love it. I love it. This is amazing. I want us to shift to Marriage Can Win. What inspired you all to begin this journey and why?
We had, honestly, both of us came from a history of divorce. Parents married, divorced twice on my side. No, actually, my grandfather was on his 4th marriage when he passed away in his 90s. Wow. His parents married and divorced 3 times. And in the beginning of our relationship, we decided we did not want to follow in our parents' footsteps. We wanted to be that change. We didn't want to be that family that, you see mom and dad together, but they have this person on the side and that person's side. We didn't want that in our household. But life happened. We were working hard, taking care of the kids, and became on autopilot and started finding ourselves pretty much roommates and on the verge of separation. We're like, we got to do something. So we had to make that decision. Look, we putting these ministry titles on the shelf, we putting these professional titles on the shelf, and we got to work on us. Because if we don't have this right, how can we be serving others, and how can we truly, teach our children? We need to get it together. And we had to roll up our sleeves, go to our pastor, say, look, we need some help ourselves. We helping everybody else, but we put ourselves on the back burner. And it was a process. So I met a woman at a business conference, and she said, you know how you go to a conference and they say, everybody introduce yourselves. Right. So I was introducing myself, and she kept staring at me, and I was like, okay, what's going on with this lady? And she came to me afterwards and she said, look, I've never seen anybody with such a twinkle in their eye when they talk about their husband. And I was like, really? Okay, nice to meet you. And I kept going. But she kept talking to me. She said, have you ever had challenges in your marriage? And we started talking. She's like, you need to share this with people. Yeah. In my mind, I'm like, who's going to really want to hear about this? But, she kept talking to me, and I talked to my husband about it. And finally, maybe a year later, we decided to write the book. And we went back and forth on the phone for hours, how do we explain what's going on? Right. And then we just say, marriages can win. You know that, right? And we kept going back and forth. She came up with all kinds of titles. And finally, hours later, she goes, Marriage Can Win. It's Marriage Can Win. We're like, we kind of said that hours ago. So that's kind of where it was.
And we do believe that marriages can win. Absolutely. And tell us, what could someone expect connecting with Marriage Can Win?
Yeah. Well, with Marriage Can Win, what we do, we provide you with the resources, the strategies, and the tools so that you can win in your relationship and in your marriage. So with us, you can expect that after talking with us, utilizing our tools and our resources, our books, our workbooks, and even our Marriage Can Win Academy, that you're going to come out equipped. Because if you're going to go to war, you got to go through boot camp. Right. But if you're in a relationship and you don't know how to have an effective relationship or how to communicate, and if you get in an argument, how do we resolve this without it ending up in a shouting match? Because we have strategies how to do that, or how to approach difference of opinion, coming up with two worlds colliding, as you mentioned, because you come from one world and your upbringing, and you come together, worlds are colliding. I'm used to doing this. No, I'm used to doing this. The toilet paper need to be on this side. No, it should be on this side. Those are the things. But how do we go about resolving that? If all you think is one person is always used to getting their way, another person says, no, you're both alpha. You got a woman that's so alpha and the man want to be alpha. I mean, there's just nothing but clashes. And if you see two lions going at it, one of them's going to end up dead. So you don't want that to be the case in your relationship. So we're going to give you those tools and strategies. But the thing is, it's hard for couples to actually reach in their pocket, spend $29.95 to get some resources, so they cannot do. They rather spend $29.95, that's in $2,995 minimum for a divorce attorney versus $29.95, or they don't want to admit that they're having issues, or they need a maintenance. My wife tells it best. I'm gonna steal her thunder. It's like when you buy a car, right? It's brand new, right? So you feel like it's running good, but there's maintenance. Your car needs to get oil changes. You need to check the batteries, the fluid. You need to do the same thing in marriage. That's why we have assessments. We have workbooks that you can take those assessments, find out, we got some things we got to talk about, right? Yeah. We got to discuss.
Because it's that shifting in the mindset. Even though everything looks good on the outside, there are things that are going on underneath the hood that you might not be able to see. Some batteries, the cables coming loose, some rusting going on. So you got to get under there and see what's going on. And you're going to find that out when you go and do that checkup. If not, it's going to just look like everything's on the up and up until that car breaks down on the side of the road. You got to call AAA or call somebody for help. Well, we're trying to help you with that maintenance part. If you feel your relationship is fine, that's great. Let's just at least do a checkup every 6 months, every 12 months to see what's going on, see what needs to be addressed, what needs to be tweaked. Because if not, you have all kinds of people, they want to trade the car in for a newer model, like it's not going to have issues. Trust me, that car will require maintenance just like any other one. So we like to be the ones that tell the couples, look, we went for a while and we didn't have the checkup. The car was about to completely shut down, like out of gas. So it's like that we wanted to say, hey, we'll raise our hands. We'll be transparent. We struggle with our communication. We struggle with our finances. We struggle with our sex. Now that we've been equipped with tools and we did the work, let us help you. So that way you don't have to go down the same road that we did. Maybe some of the information we can provide them with will help them, equip them, how to be able to resolve conflict without always slamming doors, screaming at one another, throwing stuff out in the middle of the street, all that other stuff.
Breaking remotes.
Just being honest, from 2 college kids to, now in our late 40s, early 50s, there's been a growth process. But regardless of where you are in those phases, we want to be able to help so that you can say your marriage can win. And that's the message we want them to know. Your marriage can win, but are you willing to do the work in order to do so?
I'm definitely excited to have both of you on the TMC podcast. You guys are amazing. I love what you all are doing. TMC, go check them out. Go check out their material. Do that preventive maintenance now and go ahead and get your life together. Then do this for your kids. Do this we were talking earlier about generational wealth, but let's talk about generational health. We're looking at generational wealth and generational health. So getting that health together, getting that relationship together so it can be better for your kids, for your children's children, so we can break that generational cycle today and moving forward to what God has for us so we can have kingdom marriages and we can have marriages that can win. So if someone wanted to connect with you all and what you are doing, where should they go?
Marriage Can Win on all forms of social media. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
Also the podcast.
Pandora, everything is Marriage Can Win.
Yeah.
Awesome. On behalf of the TMC family, we would like to thank you all so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Thank you guys so much for having us. We love connecting with other like-minded couples, and it's definitely been a blessing for us.
We hope you enjoyed today's video. And if this is your first time joining us, go ahead and subscribe. Click the like button and turn on your notifications so you'll be notified each time we upload a video. And if you're listening on iTunes, rate the podcast and leave a review. That'll help us get the word out. We also want to invite you to head on over to our leadership podcast, Lead to Greatness, where my husband is interviewing entrepreneurs and great leaders from all around the world every week.
So we want to thank you for joining us today on TMC. Looking forward to hanging out with you again on next week as we continue to help you take your relationship from surviving to thriving. Bye. See you next week.